Seven Heavens Studios presents The Grand Adventures of Rowan, Volume 1, A Most Important Letter.
The instant he peeled apart the seal on the ink-stained envelope and removed the precious missive from within, Rowan knew there was something wonderfully special about it, and so he had read it all at once, without bothering to sit down, mumbling the words half aloud in one thrilled breath.
Why don't you come down to the seaside? Weather's
Splendid. We've rugged mountains to climb, desert islands to explore, wild winds to sail. Do come soon.
Much love, Uncle Rufus.
There was only one response Rowan could think of. Only one response even worth giving to such an invitation. There was no need to send his reply by the post. He was going to the seaside to stay with Uncle Rufus, and the forecast promised grand adventure. Losing no time whatsoever, the enthusiastic little pine marten began to dash about the old oak to gather last-minute necessities, tumbling down to the musty root cellar to acquire provisions, namely several tins of sardines and a jar of lemon custard, pacing back and forth before tall shelves in the library as he pondered whether he should bring along Robinson Crusoe or Treasure Island, skipping through his lofty bedchamber and selecting articles of clothing to the music of the sparkling, rippling, rolling river that sounded through his window. His search complete, Rowan stuffed all his varied supplies into an enormous canvas rucksack. It had been a gift from Uncle Rufus last Christmas, and now it would be put to good use.
I'll be there presently. So many stairs. So terribly many stairs.
Perhaps the woodpeckers had been correct when they told his great-great-great-grandfather that he would live to regret building 7 floors into the old oak. The dear elderly Marten had not lived to regret it. But Rowan certainly did. After the 123rd stair, Rowan stumbled into the entry hall, full of scattered spring light peeking through the latticed front windows. Someone was at the door, he noted, as he dropped the burdensome sack from off his shoulders. A rather large group of someones, it seemed.
Oh, it's Patella's children, the dear little rabbits. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Rowan. Say hello, you lot.
Hello, Mr. Rowan.
What will you step in? Fine morning, Mr. Rowan.
Well, why don't you all come in, and then you can tell me how I might be of service. Mind the door.
I say, look at this monstrous statue. Is that Mr. Rowan?
Of course not, silly. That must be his great-great-great-grandfather or some other venerable relative.
If one means the morning is good, or if one is merely hoping for the morning to be good, or if it is a morning that you ought to be good for.
Lettuces.
Oh, he's still got the piano. Look at the piano, Charlie. Isn't it splendid?
Confound it. Cynthia, you've got to start watching what you're doing.
If you watched where you were going, it wouldn't be half the problem that it is. You are forever stepping on my toes.
What? That is entirely untrue. I'm graceful as a stag.
Oh, really, Charlie? Really?
They all tumbled into the doorway, the 8 sprightly little rabbits, clambering over one another as they entered the grand hall, where they immediately dispersed and began examining everything in sight. One crawled behind the grandfather clock, another made faces at the statues of old and much-esteemed relations of Rowan's, and yet another attempted to stand on his head atop the parlour piano.
I say, Charlie, that coat looks rather dashing.
Get down from the piano. You're gonna hurt yourself.
Oh dear. Excuse me. Would you mind? Oh, bother.
Look at this fancy chair.
Oh, Poppy! Oh, you've grown ever so much. No, you really shouldn't be touching that. That's an antique.
Look at my splendid new buttons, Mr. Rowan. I wanted them to be blue, but all Mother had was red. Don't they look dashing like cherries?
Oh, how lovely.
Might I borrow this book, Mr. Rowan? It's got such splendid pictures of boats.
Those are rather dashing buttons. And that's one of my favourite books. A gift from Uncle Rufus when he was here last midsummer. You know, when we...
Fall in, your lot, and no more snooping about!
Last time we went to carnival.
Mother's terribly exhausted, tending the twins and all, and we can't seem to find anything whatsoever for supper, so...
So she sent us over. She's forever telling us how kind and generous you are.
If there's anything you could spare, any vegetable marrows or the like, we'd be most obliged.
Preferably lettuces. I rather like lettuces. Oh,
What on earth was that? It sounded like Ambrose.
Please, not again.
Ambrose, where are you?
Sounded like it came from over there, near the larder.
The larder.
You found the jam, I see.
Sorry, Mr. Rowan. I really didn't mean to drop it, but the shelf was so high and it was a rather heavy pot. And when I went to fetch it, it just sort of slipped out of my hand.
Now you've got jam all over your clean shirt. What's Mother gonna say?
I can think of several things.
It's all right. I'll fetch a cloth and we'll have you clean in no time. Oh, you're all welcome to take some jam.
Really?
If you'd like.
Did you hear that, Mabel? So generous, Mr. Rowan.
And seeing as I'm going away here shortly on a very important voyage, I'll leave it to you to empty the larder of anything perishable. If it won't keep longer than a month, it's yours. Come here, Ambrose.
Mr. Rowan, you're a confirmed philanthropist. I can't thank you enough.
Oh, don't mention it.
Right, listen up! Ambrose, Mabel, Charlie, into the larder at once to fetch out anything leafy and green. Poppy and Emmeline, select 2 pots of jam apiece, but very carefully. No more broken jam jars. Annaliese, Cynthia, hop down to the root cellar and find the vegetables that it won't keep, just as Mr. Rowan said. Now move! Move, you sorry tails!
For several short moments, the kitchen, larder, pantry, and dining room were all aglow with greyish-white fur and scampering feet. Rather than thrusting himself into the centre of it all, Rowan withdrew to the recesses of a side hallway and conferred with a statue of his great-aunt as to how impressed he was with the maturity and discipline of dear Patella's children. They were growing so quickly, especially that Duncan chap.
Careful.
These are some of the finest lettuces I have ever seen.
Oh, wonderful. I hope you'll enjoy them.
Mother says I'm a lettuce
She says you're lettuce connoisseur.
That's it.
What's a cana? A connoisseur?
Well, I don't know.
Oh my. There are turnips. Cynthia, Poppy, Charlie, he's got turnips.
And then, as swiftly as they had come, like flocks of starlings fleeing before a storm, the rabbits were finished and on the doorstep once more, each staggering beneath the weight of their newly acquired produce.
Mr. Rowan, you've been invaluable. Mother won't know what to say.
She needn't say anything, really. You all have done me a great service, disposing of all this food. It's my pleasure.
See, I knew it meant this morning would be a good morning.
Don't go getting yourself into trouble.
See you around, Mr. Rowan.
See you.
Cynthia, you'll make me drop my lettuces.
He found your lettuces.
Now, tell Mr. Rowan goodbye, Ambrose.
Fetch some jam.
Ambrose?
I thought we had 2 jars of it. Big jars.
There he is, down the lane by the lamppost. And he's got the jam. Not the jam, Ambrose.
Oh, Ambrose.
And then they were gone. The old oak was quiet once more, save for the rustling of Rowan's canvas sack as he examined the last of his supplies and then drew the string tightly closed. With a sigh, he sat himself upon the bottommost stair and smiled. It was a lovely place, this treehouse of his, so comforting and sheltering, like a cocoon against the uncertainty of the world. No matter how many storms ravaged the great wood, the old oak was a fortress, a buttress against the rain and dark to any and all who needed comfort. It had always been that way, and it would always remain that way, even whilst he was gone. And so, with the already joyous expectation of a long-distant homecoming, Rowan heaved his pack onto his shoulders, seized a well-worn walking stick from the umbrella stand in the entry hall, stood upright to his very utmost, and swung wide the door. He was ready to go beyond, to seek out adventure at the seaside.
Why does the key always have to stick in the lock? Ugh. Oh, bother. If only I'd listened to Thaddeus and had it replaced like I ought to.
Are you going
Francesca?
somewhere, my friend?
As a matter of fact, I am.
Oh?
I am going on a long and arduous journey into the West to pursue fame and fortune into reaches from whence I may never return. Really, I'm just going to the seaside to see Uncle Rufus.
To see your uncle? Oh, how I'm jealous of you. He is such a wonderful creature to speak with. So well versed in history and in the study of the mind and of dreams.
At this mention of dreams, Rowan's stomach did a little flip-flop. It was not that he did not like Francesca. In fact, he dearly enjoyed her company, especially if the woods were deep and dark at night and there were ferrets about. But she had a rather odd and fixated fascination with dreams, and an unfortunate habit of continually retelling them.
You don't happen to be in a rush, little one.
Well, now that you mention it, actually, I mean, as a matter of fact, I was just planning to get...
I really must tell you the dream I had last night. I fear it holds great portents for my future, for the future of the great wood, for the future of us all. You cannot imagine the depths of terror, the heights of uncertainty, the cold, gripping arms of inescapable doom that wrap themselves about me.
Oh, Francesca, I am so sorry. That sounds absolutely horrible.
Rowan did feel sorry for the lady. He could not help it. No matter how absurdly Francesca behaved, or how fantastic her frequently occurring visions were, the stalwart little Marten insisted on being of moral service to his neighbour. But he did so wish to go. The road was calling to him. He could see it in his mind's eye, the grey line stretching away as it rolled over hills and wound through valleys, like a carpet of black wool rolled out before you. What wonders must lie at the end of it, he mused. Perhaps it never ended at all. The rolling road might run on forever, wrapping itself around the world until it caught up with itself and then ran the same course over and over endlessly. It was an unbroken circle of adventure and dusty shoes and long nights under the stars.
And so, I told the snake in the mirror, I have naught of what you seek. And it vanished in a cloud of smoke amidst a choir singing some dreadful music.
Oh my, that does sound rather dreadful. Francesca, are you sure you haven't been eating bad mushrooms by mistake?
I certainly hope not. We all experience such visions from time to time, as I am sure you have. But you must know, dearest, how very much it means to me that you care, that someone in this great forest is willing to listen.
If I can ever be of greater service, just let me know.
I will. Thank you, my friend. My burden has been lifted.
As the snake began to regather under herself, slithering amongst the scattered leaves strewn across the path, she seemed to smile, to carry her head higher than before. Rowan skipped off the stone steps, took one last look of fond farewell towards his towering old oak, and then followed Francesca down the dappled path towards the stream. After listening for some time to her latest gossip, something to do with a young mockingbird leaving home abruptly and attaching itself to a travelling band of musicians, they parted ways, Rowan exiting the forest and descending down grassy banks towards the river, and Francesca slithering back towards her hole on the southern border of the great wood. Golden patches of sunlight lay upon the rippling grasses, warm spots that looked like smiling faces amidst a sea of green. The marten tottered down the slope, his little feet pitter-pattering beneath the weight of his pack. Every few minutes he paused and leaned upon his walking stick, wiped his brow and tried to catch his breath. The sun was smiling down, yes, but its radiant love was so fearfully strong. Hopefully, the coming weeks of adventure would strengthen his constitution. He really was too young to be tiring so easily. Soon enough, the pathway of tamped earth traced through the hills and meandered down to the river bank, where a coolish breeze was flowing across the water, rippling the blue-green surface and setting the reeds a-clattering. Dragonflies swooped low across the water, dodging clumps of cattails as they buzzed about wildly, frantically even. A great number of baby frogs were sunning themselves on lily-pad islands, but seeing as they were of the shyer sort, they dove back into the depths of the stream as soon as the little adventurer approached.
I tell you, we were here fast. I was born on this river.
Who's ours? We built a home on the bank.
Oh, you mean that despicable pile of sticks and mud?
Despicable? Confound it, Nannette! Not again!
I'll drive you off with feet and wings.
You would dare assault us?
You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Got me. I turn my back on you and say good riddance. Those confounded devils. Those confounded devils.
Nannette! Whatever are you doing?
Devils.
They're not devils, they're ducks.
They behave as devilish fiends.
That's not at all gracious of you.
But it is the truth.
What is it about this time? What have they done, Nannette?
Those confounded devils. I shall refuse to call them, even by their names. One must remember to remain above their lowly and their petty means of identification.
Oh, Nannette. You can't lash out at them again simply because they're messy or noisy or take up space on the riverbank.
This is my river. I am in the right. I've always been in the right. And I will always be in the right. and they are simply not.
Being right is never an excuse for picking a fight or for...
Right and truth trump all, Marten. Try telling me this is not true.
I just did.
It is of no consequence. I gave them their just rewards. Go sort it out as you please, as you do always.
Nannette, you can't continue forcing your way on all the river dwellers. It isn't conducive for a peaceful community.
The devils. The confounded devils.
By the time Rowan had reached the scene of the commotion, the ducks had retreated to their home in the rushes. But the aftermath of the conflict was spread far and wide. The reeds were bent back for yards, and the lowest branches of the weeping willow had been shaken bare by the beating of the great swan's furious wings. Here and there the minuscule frogs peeped bulging eyes from beneath the water, eyes full of fear. The entire scene conveyed to the concerned Marten a sad story of bitter rivalry.
I am sorry, my young friend, but I fear your words of reason fall upon deaf ears.
Sir McDowell? Sir McDowell, what the blessed brambles are you doing up there? An owl awake at this time of day?
There was a rather rousing ruckus.
Oh, no. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, I'm so terribly sorry they disturbed you. Oh, how inconsiderate and ungrateful and
All is well, Rowan. I am only sorry for our dear Nannette, who remains as stubborn as she is lovely. Strange that one as lithe and graceful as she is so stiff-necked.
And I can't understand why she behaves so. Why she is so disposed always to be offended by such trivial things, by matters that are nothing at all, really.
She must be convinced in her own delicate mind that great trespasses have occurred.
If only there was something more I could do to help her, to help us all.
You are a kind-hearted creature, Rowan Marten, and I love you for it. But if I might offer you a word of wisdom...
Oh, please do, Sir McDowell.
Beware of thinking too highly of your own self, of thinking more of your opinions and ideas than you ought. Humble head, happy heart, as my great-grandfather used to say. I do believe it's time for a nap. Safe travels, young man. I'll expect to hear all about it.
Within a matter of seconds, the dear old owl was snoring soundly. So Rowan gathered himself together and marched on, encouraged and reassured, drawing nearer to the little footbridge that provided the only overpass for miles. Some well-off farmer had built it ages ago as a means of getting his horse and plough between the fields that lay in the great wood's shadow. But farming in those regions had long since been abandoned, and the arching stone bridge now served mainly as a place of crossing for the animals and the occasional hiker or artist that happened to wander through their territory. A rich, burbling sound of water passing over scattered stones rose into the air, and Rowan's heart seemed to swell with the song. Something about this bridge was so special that he could never quite seem to put a name to it. It simply made him feel so well, so alive, so much a part of something. And therefore, as he traipsed off the path and onto the cool stone, he paused at the bridge's middle to peer down into the shallow waterfall and subsequent pool. Here at this place the stream widened and grew, increasing in size and strength as it wound its way further south, eventually ending in some far distant lake. But for now, it was a burbling country stream, and it made Rowan's heart happy.
Oh, Rowan!
Hello? Hello? Who's there?
Oh, Rowan! Bless the stars, you're the man of the hour!
Oh, hello, Otto!
See, I've got a bit of a problem.
Oh, you and everybody else today.
Oh, but this is a grave problem. A real whopper. A doozy. A crisis beyond compare. I'm not really sure how I'll ever recover. That is, I wasn't sure till you came along.
I see. And your problem is...
My shells!
Your shells.
My shells! My shiny, precious, oh so special shells! They're gone!
The otter disappeared, leaving only a ripple on the surface of the water. And then he was up again, further away, now near the right-hand bank of the pool, twirling in a circle.
Gone, 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 gone!
Are you certain? Have you checked your burrow? Checked the whole pool?
Yes, checked everywhere.
Everywhere?
Everywhere!
Well, in that case, I'm not entirely certain if I can help. See, if you haven't any idea where they got to, and I haven't any idea where you put them, then there really isn't much to go on.
But you help me look along the bank, won't you?
Oh, all right. Of course I'll look. Oh, but why don't you climb out, old fellow? 2 pairs of eyes see better than one.
Climb out? Climb out! You don't know what it's like. Being forever in the water and then being asked to leave it? Oh my. Oh my! The very thought of it makes me sick. It makes my head spin. It makes me so terribly giddy that I can't even begin to explain.
All right, I'm sorry. Never mind that bit. Oh, they really could be anywhere. Oh, dear old Otto. Oh, the grass is so tall, and the earth is so soft. I haven't a chance of seeing them. Oh, bother. What's that? Hello? Just a magpie. Wait, a magpie. A magpie! Which means a nest. Which means... Otto!
I would never leave you, would I, O'Stream? Rowan doesn't know what he's asking. He doesn't understand what it's like.
Otto!
Oh, whatever do you want?
Were they shiny? The shells?
What do you think? The shells, of course they're shiny.
I've just got the most splendid idea.
Without a second's delay, Rowan launched himself into the tree, climbing with all his might, his claws gripping the springy branches as he scrambled from one supple branch to another, ascending higher and higher until he reached the uppermost leafy parts of the willow. And it was there that he found the magpie's nest and a neat little pile of shining shells within.
I think I might have found them, Otto.
You found them?
There you are. And you didn't even have to leave the water for one moment.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And then the otter was gone, lost amidst a whirling eddy of water which rippled away to the reeds on either side, lapping against the banks until the surface of the pool shone clear and still and deep. Returning to his pack and heaving it onto his shoulders, Rowan smiled just a little. What a curious and doting fellow he was, Otto. They were all curious, his friends were. They were so odd and lovable in their own way. And somehow they all ended up needing him, calling upon him, wanting his advice and help and thoughts. Ah, well, it was as his Uncle Rufus would have said.
There's always a multitude of creatures in the world, but not all of them happy or helpful.
Rowan certainly felt happy, and he hoped that he was at least somewhat helpful. It seemed that his neighbours thought so, and that was something. Caught up in feelings of home and helpfulness, The wanderer did not even notice when the sunny path began to climb the final hill, when it rose up towards the last line of grass-topped earth that marked the border of the sheltered great wood and the beginning of the world. But as his mind felt more and more at peace, his eyes seemed to open to the scene before him, and his little heart swelled within his breast.
I say, is that you, Rowan?
Oh, Reginald! I'm sorry, I would stay, but I can't stay and talk any longer. I'm off on a grand adventure to the seaside.
Hold. One moment.
Reginald!
Wait. A poem sung specially for you as a parting gift.
Oh, you dear little mole.
Farewell, our dearest Marten. Oh, fair farewells to thee. Be cautious, don't get eaten on thy journey to the sea. Beware of careless humans and the stinking, slinking fox. But most of all, I pray you've packed an extra pair of socks. And when the storm comes rolling, the lightning shining bright,
I've got to go,
be sure
Reginald.
to seek some...
Many thanks.
I'll keep good watch over the old oak. Keep both eyes open, I will. Though that won't be much good since I can't see anyways. Farewell.
Finally, the rolling road was in sight, stretching away beneath a canopy of trees, and the strong sunlight, a dark and dusty river against the green and gold of the forest. It spoke of endless journeys and far distant lands. It spoke also of humans and autos and the hustle and bustle of the other life, the larger and more important sort of living. But it was not the road that Rowan truly saw, for the rolling road was only a means of getting somewhere, only a sort of bridge between two places that are rather dear to you, home on the one end and adventure on the other. And it was towards this adventure that he now sallied forth unhindered, free at last, his soul prepared for the inexorable thrill of nights under the stars and the promise of his final destination.
Mr. Rowan! Oh, Mr. Rowan!
That sounds like Thaddeus.
Wait!
But no, it can't be. Surely he would have left the mail at the oak.
Wait! Mr. Rowan!
I'll wait, Thaddeus. Never fear.
Thaddeus dashed towards him, kicking up a cloud of dust as his little paws scurried along the path. The little fellow was one of the messenger mice, the efficient and brave creatures that darted back and forth all day long over hills and through woods, crossing the stream in their little ferries and clambering up telephone lines to travel great distances unobstructed. They managed all the mail deliveries for the inhabitants of the Great Wood and its outlying areas. But why Thaddeus had stopped Rowan now, when the Marten was so close to total resignation of home, was both frustrating and curious. Why not simply leave his mail at the old oak?
Hello, Thaddeus. Mail?
I was trying to...
Thaddeus!
We're important.
Thaddeus! Take a breath, fellow. I can wait.
It were important. It were, sir. I promise, though I hadn't followed you all this way, sir.
Followed me? Important? Whatever do you mean?
Well, sir, there were wax seal on it. Then all ink spiders are written in a great hurry, as it were, sir. And at Uncle Rufus for the return address, sir. I think it's your uncle, and he's quite absurd in his name.
Did you say Uncle Rufus?
Yes, sir. As I was saying, it's from your uncle.
My dear fellow, I can't thank you enough. If it's a message from Uncle Rufus, it could contain anything. Alarming news, shocking revelations, brave and untold mysteries. Might I see it?
Oh, well, sir, you see, I thought I'd tell you of it. Only since I happened to be passing this way after
Oh, you mean to say you've...
already delivered it. You'll find it in your mailbox, sir. Is everything all right, Mr. Rowan?
Oh, you've been invaluable, Thaddeus. Really invaluable. Oh, don't worry one bit. I'll rush back right this instant and see to it.
Really, sir? Haven't really done all that much. I'm just delivering a letter and all.
But I've this feeling that it is a most important letter.
And with that, Rowan turned and dashed back along the path as quickly as his legs would move and the burdensome pack would allow, trotting past the river and up the riverbank into the hills, and from thence into the brambly outskirts of the great wood. Considering how long it had taken him to bridge the distance between the old oak and the rolling road, it took almost no time whatsoever to reach his doorstep, barely panting as he unlocked the door and passed into his silent and homely tree, dropping his pack from his shoulder as he thrust his paw into the mail chute beside the door to retrieve his prize. The instant he peeled apart the seal on the ink-stained envelope and removed the precious missive from within, Rowan knew there was something wonderfully special about it, and so he had read it all at once, without bothering to sit down, mumbling the words half aloud in one thrilled breath.
Why don't you come down to the seaside?
Weather's splendid. We've rugged mountains to climb, desert islands to explore, wild winds to sail. Do come soon.
Much love, Uncle Rufus.
There was only one response Rowan could think of. Only one response even worth giving to such an invitation. There was no need to send his reply by the post. He was going to the seaside to stay with Uncle Rufus, and the forecast promised grand adventure.
You've been listening to The Grand Adventures of Rowan, Volume 1, A Most Important Letter. I'm Quinn Smedra and I played the part of Reginald. Gabi Smedra was your narrator. Caleb Smedra played Rowan Marten. Tyler Mack played Uncle Rufus. Evan Longfellow played Duncan. John Harlow played Charlie. Aivlinn Smedra played Cynthia. Jennifer Sorensen played Annaliese. Madeline Kleveter played Mabel. Angelina Santalucia played Emmeline. Sage Tomasini played Poppy. Kayla Hurst played Ambrose. Anjie Grady played Francesca. Laurie Jacobs played Nannette. Tyler Mack played Ping. Bella Pesci played Pong. Aaron Carpella played Sir McDowell. Tyler Mack played Otto. And Gracie Shin played Thaddeus. The Grand Adventures of Rowan is written and directed by Caleb Smedra and produced by Seven Heaven Studios.